really fun program today here on our big broadcast. We have a tremendous guest with us. Scott McEwen is with us. He's the author of a brand new book, Hell Week and Beyond, The Making of a Navy SEAL. And when I got this in my email box, I instantly knew I had to reach out to our buddy Jay Izzo, the coaching maverick himself, the host of New Direction, the syndicated radio host, I should say, of New Direction. And Jay immediately told me, he's like, I got to get a copy of this book, and I have to have time to read it, so give me 2 weeks. And then last week, Jay was a victim of the gas thing, where everybody didn't have any gas. And he sent me this photo that was just amazing, and it was a classic Jay Izzo. He had his thumb up the whole time, and he's always positive. Even during a gas shortage, he's always positive. And so today is the big day. So welcome to the broadcast, Scott and Jay. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for riding shotgun with us.
Thank you for having me on.
So, Scott, when were you go ahead and tell folks when you were in the Navy SEALs and started your BUDS program.
Never was. I am a chronicler of history. I was never in the SEALs. I started meeting SEALs with Chris. I'm now a recovering lawyer, and Chris Kyle was my first book with him, American Sniper. Right, yeah. And but since then, I've grown to know and personal friends with literally hundreds, probably, guys that have been in the teams. A lot of guys we've lost over the wars that we've seen the last 20 years, and during this period of time, I can't even remember the number of funerals I've been to, because there's been some serious losses that we've taken in these ranks. And I decided to write Hell Week and Beyond just as a tribute to the true warrior spirit and work on pretty famous Navy SEALs.
So one of the things, I like you, I've been able to have the privilege of these guys are special forces, Delta Force, and I am privileged because they're a different breed of cat. This hat that I'm currently sporting, Command Sergeant Major, Delta Force, Tom Satterley's foundation called All Secure, where they help combat veterans in all branches of service who are dealing with PTS. We don't like to call it disorder at all. And like you, he just posted something that since 9/11, there's over 100,000 of our veterans who committed suicide and have gone through hell since then. And so I'm grateful that you wrote this book. But like you, these guys are just a special breed of cat. And you know it well because you've chronicled them over the course of their week. But it's a special breed of cat, starting with day one, isn't it?
It is. And I think the reason I wanted to write this book was, there's distilling moments in these teams, and I'm sure Delta would say the same thing, and certainly Green Berets and other parts of the Army, if you will, that go through similar type of training, but not exactly the same as the SEALs, right, given their mission is a little bit different than the SEALs. But, I think that Hell Week, as far as a crucible is concerned, I mean, a lot of people may have seen smidgets of it here and there. We had a little bit in the movie American Sniper, and certainly a little bit in the book. But I wanted to go through and really kind of chronicle for people to understand exactly what these men go through to achieve this trident in their case, and how much they have to sacrifice, and just the attrition level. And I think just the fact that you realize that these men that start this process have already been weeded out. When I say there's certain physical requirements and mental requirements, C-sort tests, things of this nature that they've already done, getting to this, if you will, final test that takes place. And then they upload this test in the 18 months that we spend as American taxpayers on each one of these men, about $1.5 million to actually complete their Navy SEAL training. But they make sure that within the first month, they know who's going to be able to do it. And this is the week at the end of the first month that they put these guys through. And if you make it through Hell Week, you got a 90+% chance of making it through the rest of the training.
Right.
And if you will, Uncle Sam getting some return on his investment, which is a huge investment, both in men and equipment and things of this nature. And so, I wanted people to realize on a day-by-day basis exactly what type of hell these guys have to endure in order to make it through this week, and then take that message that I gotten from many Navy SEALs on what that means for them, because a lot of these guys are pretty darn successful once they get out, and there's a reason why, and it's because of their commitment to excellence, their commitment to getting the job done, their commitment to absolutely never quit. Once you start the project, it's got to be done. And I think that people, while we appreciate maybe these guys in the special forces, we really don't understand what's behind it.
No, we don't understand at all. I think one of the things, you talk about this, early on and actually throughout the entire book, there is a humbling process that you talk about in this book, where that people may not pick up on immediately, but you go in there and you may think that you are the man, but there's this tear down, humbling process. Talk about that in terms of what you saw, in terms of how they kind of actually tear down the man.
Well, I think that one of the things you have to do to build a team is really to structure, and this is true with sports, and I've kind of made some analogies in here in this nature. You have to realize that every part of that team has to be as good as the other part of the team, or you have a quote chink in the armor. In other words, every single man that's on that team had better be able to do the job of the other man and understand what that job is, even if they don't have that skill set as a corpsman or possibly something else. They better understand what that is, and really the SEALs make sure that not only do you understand it, but and I try to get pretty graphic, and I get pretty graphic, as you can see in the book, about like these guys get what's called BGE from the Tijuana River, and they are literally have their own body excrement crawling down, coming out of them while they're doing this, vomiting, and the other guy's got to crawl through it, and the other guy's got to live through it with them, and that's a very humbling experience. I mean, let's face it, you got to crawl through somebody else's literally excrement. That doesn't make you feel good, but by the end of it, you are one. You are part of that team, and if you got to carry that guy out, bleeding all over you in a battlefield or whatever else, it isn't that big of a deal, because you've already been through a lot with that guy already. And I think it's important that people understand that level of commitment and just literally physical, situations is there. And these men take it, they understand it, they believe it's a part of their job, and it doesn't matter if that guy is a senator's son coming out of the Naval Academy, or he's a kid off the street in Ohio, 17 years old, coming to, as a senior in high school, and decided he's going to be a SEAL. They all got to do the same thing. And I love that about this branch of the military, that there is no trophy for second place. There is no PC. There is no, situation where they're going to let you through if you can't do it. They want every man to be able to do it, and they require it. And, that's refreshing to me today in our society, that we still recognize and require that.
I agree with you. I think the fact that the BUDS program and Hell Week exists is a testament to, and the reason why it works is because it works. I mean, the reason why they continue doing it is because it works. One of the beautiful things that you do in this book is that you give us a lesson at the end of each chapter that you want us to apply back to ourselves in our own lives. And I think one of the things that stands out to me is the very thing that you just talked about, and that is, in our business world, right? How much better would your business be? And when I say you, I'm talking to the listeners now. How much better would your business be if you followed the same regimen? I mean, I know they can't, but if you were to follow that same discipline, that same preparedness that they had, how much better would everybody be?
Yeah, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to impart something to the reader that I have learned, that I personally have learned with, all the trials and tribulations that I've been through, with Chris being killed, and, and attacks from the press and the left attacking us, saying that we're just, the typical, if you will, murderers of people, and all the things we hear criticized towards our military defending this country, things of this nature. Like, you go through a lot. You go through a lot, as a writer, being in the middle of this. Certainly not as much as those men in the field, but I have experienced a lot of criticism personally and everything else. And you know what? I don't give a damn. I mean, I just look at it like, you know what? You might not like what I'm writing about. You might not like to hear what I'm telling you. But
Right.
by God, there's bad guys out there, and sometimes those Osama bin Ladens of the world need to be taken out, and there needs to be a force of men that are prepared to take them out, no matter what the cost to themselves or anything else.
Right.
I'm glad we have them, and that's really what this book is. It's a tribute to the mentality, as well as the that preparation, if you will, that all of us can use in our daily life. And none of us, or most of us, will never be SEALs, including myself. But by God, I can learn something from those guys. And when they make a decision to get a job done, they do the job.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm never going to be in that elite category in terms of what they did. But I'll tell you what, I can certainly learn from them and try to apply as much as I can in my daily life and in my business. And there is so much to learn from these guys. I know, so many of these guys who I've been able to interview, several former Navy SEALs, and man, those guys, they are successful and they live a life of success because of what they went through and because of who they are. And, I'm thinking right now of Captain John Havlick, who I don't remember what year his class was, but I mean, the guy is tremendously successful. He's, still after it, and he applies the principles that he learned while he got his trident. And man, I can't be him. None of us can, or very few of us can, but boy, there's just so many great lessons. One of the things you said, I think it's in chapter 3, you said you were recovering recovering a lawyer, attorney, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not call him an alcoholic. Okay?
That's all right. I could probably be called that on occasion.
He's
Might not be true, but I could certainly, after a bender with the SEALs.
A recovering attorney. Okay, yeah. Let's get that straight. But one of the things I kind of thought it was kind of interesting, you talked about shock and awe, and that it's actually something that we utilize. And you said, I think the quote was something like, even when I was practicing law, I would practice using shock and awe, or something. I've done that myself. Some of these things we don't think about in terms of applying to our life, but the truth of the matter is, you yourself, from your own background, use some of these principles. Let's talk about that a little bit, about how these principles apply back to, maybe the ordinary listener who's like going, well, I don't know, what does this book have to do with me? But I think, using something like shock and awe in the business world might be actually a really helpful choice for them to say, you know what, I need to get this book.
Well, and I think so. I think, you got to separate yourself. And, one of the things that I used to like to do with appellate courts and with judges, and sometimes even with juries as a lawyer, and I learned this really from these guys a lot, is you walk in and you don't wade in. You come in and you say, look, I'm going to prove this to you. And when I prove this to you, you're going to see that my client sitting here that's been sued for this or that should not even be here. Should not be here. This whole thing is a travesty. This whole thing is, is made up for whatever reason or whatever. And I'm going to prove to you that not only has he been wronged, but he's been wronged badly or whatever. You got to shock that audience. You got to let them say, but then you got to deliver the goods. I mean, I think what's important with the SEALs is not only do you come in with your best suit right off the bat, and I've learned from these guys, but you deliver on what you're saying, and you don't just wade in. SEALs aren't paid to wade in. They're paid to come in, and when they open fire, everybody stands up at the same time and empties the gun. In other words, they got a certain situation where they say, look, we're going to come in here and bring overwhelming force and everything else on this situation. And I think we as people have a tendency to come in, well, if you buy this, if you do that, if you come to here, whatever else, businesses, whatever. I like that guy that comes in and says, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, or that woman, this is how I'm going to do it, and I am going to impress you so much with what I do that what it is. And the bottom line is, you can walk out of that room and be assured, even if you don't get that deal, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember exactly who you are. And I think that assertiveness, that character, that trait, if you will, of coming in and, literally trying to put the other side on their feet, and backwards to say, wow, like I just heard something, and that's something I better take notice of. I think people should do that more often. I mean, I think that people sometimes are ingrained against them. And, oh, if we do this and touchy-feely, that's not the way the SEALs operate. And I learned a lot from that.
Yeah, matter of fact, you have some great lessons in here: mindset, brotherhood, just to name a couple. But there's some really fabulous lessons. I think one of the things, though, I want to ask you that you talk about in this book is from day 1 to the day 7, right? Talk about the fundamental change in their mindset that happens from day 1 to day 7.
Well, I think what happens is, I think the guys that make it through this, and people have asked me, what is that factor, that X factor that really gets these guys through this? And I have to say that the X factor is the 6 inches between your ears. It has nothing to, although there is physicality to this, and there's certainly physical guys. There's SEALs that are 6'4" that can bench press 400 pounds and kick doors in, wherever they want to do it, whatever. But there's also SEALs that are 5'4" that weigh 130 pounds, that are every bit as lethal. But what they have in common is that 6 inches between the ears. And to get through Hell Week, every one of these men, to a man, has made a commitment. I will not be walked off this battlefield. I will not be, whatever, go up and ring that bell and say, I'm done. You're going to carry me off, either dead or alive. You are going to carry me off this field, because I'm not going to leave voluntarily. And once you have that mindset, as they move through this week, they realize, I can do it. I can, I think there's maybe question in each of their mind whether they will be carried off that field at the beginning, but by the end, they're like, I can do this. I can make it through this. I'm going to do this. And that's the real transformation is. And once you're done, there's very few things. There's very few hells that can be thrown at you, even in battle, that will transpire or be worse than what they've been through here, because they work these guys over. They flat work these guys over,
I think it's the interest is in the transformation that occurs, that you kind of allude to here as day by day goes on, that they transform themselves, because there's something that, and I can't put my finger on it, maybe you can describe it, but there's something that happens that is so transformational for them that they just are able to, each day there's something different about the guy. And I don't know what it is, because as I was reading this, I was like going, this transformation that they went through mentally is absolutely phenomenal, because they don't know what really to expect. They try to prepare the best that they can, and each day brings on a different unique challenge. But there's something about these guys, and you said it. You could be 6'4" or 5'4", but there's something that changes. Did you find that as well? That during the
week? I think it's that mental. At the beginning, and if you could use an analogy, the one thing I thought is, at the beginning, you have no idea how far you have to crawl through the tunnel. In other words, you know you're going down a very dark tunnel, and that tunnel could be a mile long, it could be 100 miles long, and you're in the middle of it, and you're immersed in it and everything else. But then about day 4, they see that light. And when they see that small light, that's something there, then that creates that impulse that men, women, all of us have as humans, to say, I'm going to get to that light. I'm going to make it to that light. And, and that's one of the things that I love about these guys is they can almost always see that light, no matter how bad things are now or later after this is done. That transformation, if you will, to say, I'm going to seek the light. And once I find that glimmer, I'm going to move to that, and I will go through hell and high water to get there. But that light is what it is, and I think that's one of the messages I wanted to put in this to people is just seek that little bit of light. And once you see that little bit of light, be it COVID or whatever else, now we can see, hell, we're going to get through this crap. Like everybody at the beginning's like, oh, we're all dead. The SEALs I talked to, because I wrote this during COVID, they're like, come on, man. This ain't that bad. Nobody's shooting at you. We might have some kind of disease here, but let's keep this in perspective. I mean, like these guys from day 1 are like, this isn't even, however bad this is, we're going to get through it. Like they had that attitude from day 1. And I love that attitude. Like, dude, no matter how bad you're going to throw it at me, it's worse.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, their ability to adapt.
Yeah.
That adaptability is really powerful. And you talk about that in the book too, is that, these guys have this innate, this ability to adapt to every situation. And be on top of it. But I think something even greater than that, and you talk about it, which is awesome, but I think it's like in day 3, you talk about this, and I've talked about it as well with some of these guys, and that is, when they're hungry, when they're tired, and they're exhausted, and they've been beaten up, and at the end of the day, they recognize that they don't rise to the occasion, but they fall back to the level of their training, and so that they understand how important it is to train themselves and physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in those areas. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is that I think they rely upon their body in a certain degree, that their bodies will do this or that. But even like, I imparted in this story, one of the SEALs that I really got a lot of help with this on is he had a situation where he slipped a disc, had a ruptured disc about 2 days in, and the ruptured disc wouldn't allow him to bend over end of the second day, going into the third day. But he realized that even if he got a medical, you can roll back and go back through it, he's going to have to go through it. So he just looked at the pain and said the pain is dealable. In other words, I can deal with that back pain that basically shut down the right lower half of his body. But I can deal with that and make it through as long as I don't fall below the standard for my teammates to help them get through, because they want to make it very clear that if you're a slacker or you're a boat, they call it, just avoiding the boat or not doing your part of the job that they make these guys do, then the rest of the team will look at it and say, you're slacking, like for whatever reason. And they don't want that on their team either. They don't want that guy that's trying to move out easily or whatever else. They want it to be a collective effort for everybody. And, and I love that about this attitude, if you will, that they get from this procedure, that they have to not only be a part of the team, but contribute to the team to get through, no matter what their level of personal pain, physical issue, whatever else it is, they can still do something.
That brotherhood piece, that responsibility to brotherhood, which you talk about on several occasions actually in this book, is so critical, and one that we just do not apply very well in our business world. That and it's really kind of an self-accountability. I'm not going to say it's outward accountability, because in the business world we have this external accountability, but they are self-accountable in that I do not want to do something that's going to let my brother down. I don't want to be the one that lets them down. It's not about what do I want. It transforms themselves into this. I am holding myself accountable so that I don't let them down. That's a pretty big deal for these guys, isn't it?
I think that the reputation amongst the teams and the reputation amongst their peers is huge. I mean, I think that, while the teams will have other guys that will look in and judge this person or whatever else and say that was the right thing or the wrong thing, the reputation amongst themselves is far more important than external people saying, oh, that's a good SEAL, or that guy's a good SEAL because he did this or that or whatever else. They, to them internally, what's important is the reputation amongst the teams themselves, and they have it. Every one of these guys has a certain reputation they have to uphold amongst their own teammates, and it's very, very important to them that they keep that up, because no matter what happens with everybody else, even if you make a mistake on the battlefield, whatever, you're going to get judged, you're going to get this or that. As long as you don't turn the teammate down, as long as you do your job for your teammate, then you're still a part of this team. And that's the way they look at life, and that's where they look at at their defense when they're in harm's way in other countries or whatever else. That's the way they judge themselves. And at the end of the day, I think sometimes we see politics change in the military and things like that confronting our military men and women. But as long as they keep honor amongst themselves, they can keep themselves going.
There's another piece that's not a very popular, that you talk about a little bit here, that's not very popular in today's society, and that's competition. And you talk about it. I think is it day 5 or I think it's day 5. That you talk about, that while they're a teammate, they also want to stay completely competitive because they have a competitive nature. We live in a society that competition's not really a very popular term, because everybody needs to win, which makes no sense. But these guys, even though they're part of a team, they also remain competitive. Explain that balance.
And that's one of the things I try and talk about is on the running tests and things of that nature, where they're running these guys, and they will give a reward. The team, the SEALs want to give a reward for being first. for winning. And and there's a reason why they've never taken that out of this program, and it's for the exact reason that, look, if you strive to win every single time, you're going to push your body, your mind, everything else towards that goal of winning. And even though you've got teammates or whatever else, we still want you to remain as competitive as possible, because they want guys that are winners. They want guys that are the best, that are willing to do whatever it takes to get that trophy, to say that I ran this or whatever else. And I think too many times, as you say, now in our society, we don't in any way even exalt winning. It's almost unbelievable. Possibly in our sports programs, we see a glimmer of it, of unparalleled, or I should say, of the desire to be the world champion, of the desire to do this and that. And that's maybe one of the reasons why people still revere sports. I don't know, but the bottom line is they encourage that behavior. And through that winning behavior, you also teach excellence. You also teach that extra 30% in the gas tank that everybody has in their gas tank, but sometimes you don't realize how to tap into that.
Listen, competition is so important. I just believe wholeheartedly that, you know what, your best salespeople are going to be competitive. Your best CEOs are competitive. Your best people are going to have some competitive nature to them. To think that a salesperson, if you hire a salesperson who has no competition, you're gonna have a hard time getting that person to be a good salesperson. I mean, it's just, and this as a recovering attorney, I did say it right this time.
Yeah.
But as an attorney, you know what? If you are not going to compete, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Especially as a litigator.
Yeah, right.
You're paid to win, and that's the bottom line. I don't know if I lost signal here or not, but
I still see you.
Okay, good. The bottom line is, as a litigator, my win-loss record was pretty damn good, and I was paid pretty well for what I did. But the bottom line is, I was paid to win. I mean, like it or not, I'm not paid to do unethical acts or whatever else. I wouldn't do that, but I was paid to win, and I made that very clear to my clients. If I don't think I can win, I will tell you, and you can stop paying me and get this thing resolved right now. I'm not one of those kind of guys that has won every case either, because any litigator that tells you he won every case is BS, because it doesn't happen that way. You got to step into the field of battle. Sometimes you're going to take a shot. Sometimes you got to take a shot to reduce the number, whatever the number is that the other side's seeking. But you got to be competitive, and you got to want to win, or you don't have the right person you're hired to be on your team as a lawyer. And I always kept that in mind, that that competitiveness never left me, in the time that I was practicing law. That's for sure.
I think it's kind of interesting just to kind of jump on top of this, because you talk about this, I think it's day 6. But you also talk about this as well, where our society today, you have no right to talk to me that way. Somebody gets in their grill, or somebody's in their face, or, these guys are getting yelled at, insulted, the whole thing. Man, you say the wrong thing in today's world, and you are immediately the poster child on every social media platform about how horrible you are. If you had to live one day as a SEAL during Hell Week, you know what? You're not going to survive there. You know what I mean, right? I mean,
that's it, and it's not politically correct.
Right.
It's not correct at all. It was never meant to be fair. It was never meant to be anything else. But that's the other thing I put in the book. Don't expect everything to be fair. Right. Don't expect that you're going to get an even shot or whatever else. Don't expect that the other side is going to play fair. You have to play to win, and you have to expect that the other side may not play fair in doing it, but that doesn't mean that you still can't win. And I love that about the SEALs. They don't expect the other side to be fair. They expect the other side, especially in a situation where they're in battle or at war, they expect everything bad from the other side. I had a SEAL one time tell me, he said, you know what? The operation by Osama bin Laden, as much as I want to kill that SOB, and then ultimately they did kill that SOB,
right?
Was how bad it was. It was still a brilliant op. It was a brilliant op. They took an amazingly small amount of assets and turned it into a situation where you brought a nation the size of the United States to its knees, shut down the entire country, everything else. And, as a warrior, while I want that guy taken out or whatever else, I have to recognize the fact that cheating, what they did, however bad it was a brilliant op. And right. That's a different way of looking at the world. When you look at it like that, like, your enemy is bad, but you have to defeat that enemy.
Well, I don't think people fully understand that First of all, life isn't fair.
Yeah.
All right? Just in general, life is just not fair. Okay? To try to make life fair is ridiculous. That's like trying to. So what you're going to tell me is you're too tall, so we're going to make you shorter. Or
Yeah.
you're too short, so we're going to make you taller, because it's not fair that you're that tall and I'm not. Or it's not fair that you're better in math than I am. Or it's not fair that you're better in English than I am. Or it's not. Well, folks, we're given different talents and abilities, right? So you know what? Just because you don't have somebody's doesn't make it fair. You just need to discover your own thing and be that. That's kind of what my life's
Yeah.
is, right?
And that's exactly what I explain in the book is, the SEALs, they don't expect fair. They don't in fact, they anticipate it will not be fair. But
Right.
the question is, can you win? Can you prevail? Can you get your job done? Can you complete the mission, even though it is not? That is really the test of that mental attitude.
Well, you know what? Let's go back to your sports analogy, because I played defensive tackle in college and a little bit after. And, you know, I know that you've heard this said, but I'm going to tell you something. Offensive linemen hold you every single play.
Yeah.
It is actually holding is against the rules, if nobody can understand that, but holding is against the rules. But they hold every play.
Sure.
You, as a defensive lineman, you know you're going to be held every play. The point is, it's not fair, but you fight through it to sack the quarterback. That's the point of, I mean, that's just an example of how life operates, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And to accept that and to fight through it, right now, you bring up that term equity versus equitable. We have created a society that I believe is probably one of the most equitable in the world. In other words, I think that this whole racist crap that's going on and all this, their lack of advantage and all this stuff, I think that, if you just look at our U.S. military or you look at our society in general, that's not true. And I think to say that we're going to do equity, make everybody the same playing field or whatever else, or try and change the dynamics to say we're going to give you this because of that or whatever else, that doesn't make our society equitable. It just makes it social, makes it a socialist society. And, from my perspective, that's one of the biggest dangers we're confronting right now as a nation. And I like to talk about it, and I talk about it some in Hell Week, is this attitude that everything's going to be fair. Everything has to be equitable, equity. Everybody must do this or that. Look, you can't legislate that, and you certainly don't want that in your children. And this attitude in children is a very bad thing.
Well, yeah, it is a bad thing, because what you're saying is we don't want you to achieve.
Right.
I mean, think about that for a second. I tell people this all the time. What you're telling people is you don't want them to achieve anything. You want them. Don't be better than anybody. We need you to be average. You stop being great. Think about what this all means. I don't want you to be great. I don't want you to be successful, because you could be more successful than another person. I don't want you to over prepare, because if you're overly prepared, you might be more prepared than the person next to you, and that would embarrass them. And we can't have that, right? This discipline thing that you're doing, that's silly, because if you're that disciplined, that's going to make somebody else look bad. And don't you feel sad that you've so disciplined that other person now feels ashamed? You're discipline shaming that person. How ridiculous is that?
It is. It is, man. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It is not what built this nation. It is not what put the man on the moon. It is not what built our computers. It's not what built the society that we have. And I think it's a very dangerous notion. And I really try and explain the fact that if you want to create a battle-hardened warrior like the SEALs, you don't even look at it like that. You look at it like, look, we want you to do the best you can every single time.
Yeah, listen, the thing about this book, if some people just don't get it and understand it, is that these guys who get through Hell Week, they are different. They are better than you and me. They always will be better than you and me. They are elite, right? You don't want those guys average going out into a battlefield. You want those guys elite. You don't want those guys hugging a terrorist. I'm sorry, that's not what you do. You don't extract information from somebody by going, oh, please. Come on, it's just not how it works, man.
Yeah. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why, I really kind of almost, it's funny because I sent it to a producer up in Hollywood the other day, and the guy came back to me. He read it, and he came back to me. He said, "You know what this is, dude?" And I said, "No. What do you take it as?" This guy's kind of a big time guy. He said, "This is like the prequel to Batman or the prequel to Superman. This is the creation story of a superhero, but the superhero is a Navy SEAL." He said, like you take the average man and confront him with kryptonite or whatever else and just say, how far can you take this? How far can you go? He said, this is your superhero creation story, but it's really the truth, and so, and it's kind of like, wow, that's an interesting way to look at it. I guess it's true.
Right. Yep. But you know what? It isn't that interesting that he would use the superhero framework on this, because the society that we live in, we really don't want superheroes.
No. We want everybody the same.
Yeah, think about that for a second. Dude, we can't have you be Superman and you can't be Wonder Woman, because that means that you'd be better than everybody else. And that's wrong. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, right. You hear it, right? Do you hear it? Do you hear the nonsense of that, right?
No, I know. And you know what? That's where we are. That's where we are. And, and it's where we are, unfortunately. And I think we need to get back to this attitude. Like, we need, exceptionalism amongst us, because I like to look up to heroes like this. I like, I don't like looking up to Batman with a cape and a, and a cod piece. I personally feel like, these guys should be our kids' heroes. And I think these are the people that we should look up to and say, wow, that Delta guy, that SEAL guy, that guy's got his stuff together, whatever else, that speech, by an admiral in a Texas thing, make your bed, something like that. Like, these are men you can look up to and say, wow, these guys really do represent what the best in our society. And that's kind of what I tried to do.
Yeah. And I think you did it well. And I think the reason why people need to read this book is not just so that you understand what these guys go through. I think it's more than that, but these lessons, because as you and I have talked about earlier on in the show, the lessons that you provide here are things for us to attain to, because we're not going to be these guys, but man, we can always be improving, because these guys are guys we can look up to and go, man, I could eat better. Certainly. I could get better exercise. I could train my mind better. I could be more persistent. When I get knocked down, I can get back up again. I know that I could be much better about not quitting. I know I could be much better about being a better competitor, right? I'm just talking about, these are some of the lessons in your book that you talk about. And so I think with people, and by the way, it's books available Amazon, all over. It's also available Audible version, Kindle, and hardcover and paperback, I believe, too, right? So all four?
Paperback will be out soon. Yeah, hardcover now, yeah.
Yeah, hardcover now, right?
Yeah.
So, but the Audible version is available, and I know so many of you out there love to listen to Audible because but this, I'm just telling you, this is a great book. This is a book. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. He does not pull any punches. He tells it like it is. There's going to be some language in here, but that's just the reality of what you're dealing with in this world. And but it is a great book. It is fundamentally sound. You're going to learn a lot from this book. I'm just telling you, if you're in business, if you want to be in business, if you're somebody who's an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, and you just need a good kick in the pants, I really do believe that this is a book for you out there. Tell them how they can get a hold of you.
ScottMcEwen.com is my website. I'm on all the Facebook and all that kind of stuff too, on that kind of stuff. But I encourage people on this one, if they are going to purchase it, to go to that mom and pop indie store. I'm kind of like pushing, America. Every one of our towns across this country has that small store that sells both new and used books. And, with this COVID, those people have been hit hard, and you can order it online and get your whatever for, save some money, or just get it off Kindle or whatever else. But if you can support that small shop, I encourage people to do so. And I'm really kind of putting that out there, because those people have been hit hard with this COVID thing. And, and at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos got enough money.
You're right. Yeah, listen, folks, I didn't even think about that. Thanks for reminding me of that. But folks, listen, you probably don't even know it, but there is probably an independent bookstore in your area that it. You know what? I don't even think about it because, it's what, a 15, 20-minute drive for me to get to it. I don't think about going there. But the truth of the matter is, for 15 to 20 minutes to get there, it's worth supporting them. So I could not be more in agreement. Find your closest local independent bookstore, get the book. It's called Hell Week and Beyond. It's absolutely outstanding. And you know what? I got even another great idea for you to do. Not only get one for yourself, but give it away to somebody that you know that could really use the encouragement. I think this is going to make a great gift. I think you got Father's Day coming up, and I'm telling you, dads are going to love this book. They're just going to love this book. We've got Memorial Day coming up this weekend, and what a great gift for some of those retired vets. What a great gift for your dads. What a great gift for your uncle and your friends. I really, really encourage, find your local independent bookstore and find that there. What else would you like to finish up with before we wrap this up?
It's been fun, this book coming out, and I have seen so many different podcasts such as this and other radio personalities, everything from coast to coast to local shows and everything else. But you know what I love about America is I think everybody has taken this false, if you will, beat down that we just took on this COVID thing for what it is. And I think people are recovering. And I just love the resilience of this country and the fact that people are willing to get up every day and keep on swinging. And maybe this SEAL thing will help them out and Hell Week will help them out. But I just love the fact that, America is what it is. And this is a free country. And, people have embraced this book and embraced these concepts. And, they're not PC and they're not everything else, but not all of us are. And you know what? We're going to take it back. We're going to take it back. That's because we're right. And this is what built this country. And we are an exceptional nation. We are not an average nation. We are an exceptional nation. We have an exceptional military. And nobody tries to stomp on us for a reason. And it's because of that military protecting us. And let's remember that.
Thank you for saying that, Scott. That's awesome. James, where you got?
Well, I'll tell you, this is an amazing book, Scott. You've put together here. Something that sparked my interest when you guys were talking. Scott, what do you think of the latest recruiting videos that the military is starting to use to try to get people to join the military for some reason? They've got to reach out to certain folks.
I posted up that one with the girl talking to the two mothers and saying, I'm just going to do this and that. And look, I don't care if people come from, it doesn't matter to me what their gender is, what their attitude is, what their preferences are, whatever else, but don't make the United States military your petri dish for your social policy. I'm sorry, but I find that absolutely wrong. I don't think it's what we need. I don't care what branch of the military you're talking about. It doesn't make sense to me that that's what we want. And I don't like that attitude, nor do I like that sales pitch that they're trying to do in these ads. And I think if you put that next to the Russian ad and the ad that I saw, the Russian ad for their military, look, at the end of the day, our military must be more competitive than those that want to do harm to us. And that's exactly why we are still on number one and on top. And if we lose that edge and we lose that tip of the spear, we will lose.
That's great. That's phenomenal. So Scott McEwen with us today. He joins us live here on our big program. And Scott, you have got just an incredible book here. You've put a lot of time and effort into this book. What are you hoping that folks get out of the book? What do you want readers to take away from the writing and the conception of this book?
It's interesting because your co-host, pointed out so many points, and I really appreciate the fact when somebody reads a book like that. I really do, and it makes
Jay's the man.
Fun to be interviewed, and you'd be surprised how many times it does not happen. But that being said, I think that you those points were very important. But what I want people to take from this book is really that attitude of the SEALs, like, no matter how bad you think it is, you still got more in the tank. No matter how bad you might have drawn for a cards that were dealt to you, or you lost a loved one or whatever else, you still got more in the tank, because we're all going to go through hell. The question is, what do you do with the hell, and how do you get out of the hell, and how do you keep on rolling? And that's really the only question in life is, we're all going to go through hell, and we're all going to go through those really debilitating times that knock us down. And the question is, who can get back up, and keep on fighting? And that's really what the SEALs are about. And this attitude of this book is, overall, is, just when you think you're down, you got 30% more in that tank. Even though it's on empty, you think it's on empty. You got 30% more in that tank to run with. And that's exactly what these guys bring to the field, is that attitude that, just get up and do your best, and every day do your job, and you will get through. And I love that attitude.
You're speaking my language there now, Scott. Because, that's actually a chapter in my last book, from lessons from lessons from the farm, because I literally say, when you think you don't have anything left, you always had something more in the tank. We used to, on the farm back in Nebraska, we'd bale hay from sun up to sundown, and you would be exhausted, you'd be tired, but you still had more left. You thought you were exhausted, but you could do more. And I'll tell you what, we could prove it, because we'd go do that all day long, get cleaned up, get dressed up, get in your pickup truck, head downtown, and you were ready to play. So you clearly had more. Yeah. You clearly had more left in the tank, But I love that attitude, because I think what we do is the SEALs don't give in to being tired. They know that they always have more. And you said you have 30%. I didn't know it was that. I didn't realize it was that much. But you know what? It probably is that we always got more. I love that. And you borrowed, something, that line, and maybe Sylvester Stallone borrowed it from the SEALs, but that line that, and Sylvester Stallone's probably one of the greatest philosophers of our time, who said, it's not how hard you hit, but how hard you can be hit and keep going, right? That's kind of that's kind of the Navy SEAL motto, as well. And I love that. I love, because listen, somebody gives you your best shot and you get back up again, you scare the hell out of them.
You're right. Exactly right. Because then they know you can take it.
Yeah, I don't care what it is. Somebody gives you your best shot and you get back up. You've now opened eyes. Their eyes get a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit scary. I love that. Good for you, man. Good for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Scott, what is next for you as an author, or what are you trying to get accomplished next?
I'm working on a project that I've thought of for many years, and it's called The Second. And it's really going to be a historical version, because as a lawyer, I saw these arguments many times on what the Second Amendment really means, what it was written for, and what the true intention of the framers is about, what it has meant to this country, why the Japanese did not want to invade us in World War II, because they knew there'd be a rifle behind every blade of grass. All the things that I believe, having, firearms really has done for this country, while we see negative stuff in the press. And I'm the first one to say, I don't like this stuff with these shootings and stuff like that, but I would much rather live in a dangerous democracy than a very safe socialism. And, and I think we as a nation are going to have to confront that attitude soon. And I'm really writing a historical version of what I believe to be the true Second Amendment.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, listen, you know what? I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, when you exchange freedom for security, you have neither.
Exactly.
I think that's what he said. I think
he said, and it's the truth. And it's really kind of a historical expose of that, because we are going to confront these subjects very, very soon. And I think as a nation, as we move more to the left, and historically, I think we had better remember too that no one out there that has taken over those countries and done the huge genocides we've seen with Stalin, with Mao, with a lot of other, with Hitler, a lot of other places, they've all had to disarm their populace before they did it, because they couldn't have got it done if they didn't. And and we better remember that.
Yeah. Well, then you have people who try to rewrite history, saying that never really happened. But
I'm here to tell them it did. I'm here to tell them it did.
You just made the point. You would have never been able to survive it unless you never been able to accomplish what you accomplished unless you disarm the public. Exactly. You can't accomplish what you accomplished unless you disarm the public. It had to be. It's the only way you could do it. Because if it was armed, you would not have done it that way. So
Yeah.
your logic is impeccable, Scott. And sadly, we have people who do not understand that logic.
Yes, they
Well,
do not.
Guys, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. And I got to jump. We've been on a little bit longer than possible than I anticipated, but I love it, and I want to come back. I like being on your guys' show. So maybe one of these times in the future, you'll invite me back.
Oh, definitely.
I'm in.
Eddie.
I'd love to. I really would. I like you guys. I loved your questioning. By the way, both your questionings. Thank you very much for being prepared and reading the book. I don't always see that, and I really appreciate it when I do, and I mean that as a writer and and someone who deals with a lot of interviews. I mean, I really do appreciate people understanding the material.
Thank you so much. I
Well,
appreciate it. Thanks.
But before we let everybody go, I want to start with Jay. How do we get your books and get in touch with you and everything? And we'll have
Listen, jayizzo.com, JAYIZSO.com is where you can find all my books. You can find how to book me as a coach. Coachingmavericks.com is my. Listen, I'm in the big cowboy hat, the boots, the belt buckles. I don't care. I'm going to walk in with blue jeans and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You know what? If
There
you're
you go.
successful and you want to be a leader, you know what? Be authentic, and that's what I am. And so, Coaching Mavericks, it's right there behind me. You know what? Here it says it right there, right? No suits,
There it
no
is.
bull, just there it is.
I love it. I love it, man. Keep it up. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
Well, Scott,
I mean, let's do it.
before we let you go, how do we get a hold of you online?
ScottMcEwen.com. I got a question and answer stuff there, but that's my website, ScottMcEwen.com, and then I'm on social media when they're not banning me. So but that happens on occasion to all of us, especially now.
Hey, Scott, look for me to connect with you on the different social media platforms.
Love to, man.
All right, brother.
Definitely. Well,
All
thank
right,
you
talk to you
guys.
later, guys.
Appreciate
Thanks a
it,
lot.
gentlemen. Thank you. There they go. Jay Izzo and Scott McEwen, and that wraps it up here for this Memorial Day edition of the world famous Cheeky Jaguar Radio broadcast. We will indeed see you next time. Maybe, if I can get my music to play. No. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Check us out online at jiggyjaguar.com.